Tom had always been afraid of the dark, not just as a kid, but as a grown man too. His therapist called it an irrational fear, but Tom knew better. The dark wasn't empty. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was alive. Something ancient, a presence that lingered like a shadow in the corners, waiting for a chance to consume. That was why he had moved to Chicago in the first place. The city never truly went dark, always buzzing with neon signs, headlights, and streetlights. Even in his apartment, 8 stories up, the glow of 1,000 windows kept the shadows at bay. In the city, the dark couldn't reach him. But after his mother's sudden death, he had no choice. Cancer had taken her away swiftly, eating her alive in just a few months. The doctors were baffled at how fast it could spread. A nurse had even muttered that it was like something had helped it along, as if something had been waiting for her to go. Now, Tom was back in his childhood home, a hulking Victorian on the outskirts of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. The house sat at the edge of town, where the streetlights ended and the darkness began. It had been years since he'd been back, but in the time since he left for Chicago, his mother had rented it out to a series of families. None of them had lasted long. Some fled in the middle of the night. Others simply vanished. Tom had always thought it was just bad luck or strange coincidences. But now, as he stood at the threshold, he couldn't shake the feeling that something else was responsible. But it would only be for a few weeks, just long enough to handle the estate and rent the house out again. That was a plan, at least. That's what he told himself. Night 1. At 3:33 a.m., the house woke up. A sound, faint at first, almost like the wind, slithered throughout the vents. It was something between a whisper and a chuckle, like something crawling. Then the footsteps, heavy and deliberate, each step echoing throughout the quiet house. Tom's breath hitched. That wasn't possible. The first floor was empty. He grabbed the bat he'd brought with him and crept towards the staircase. Each step groaned under his weight. At the bottom of the stairs, the hallway was wrong. The shadows were too deep, pressing against the edges of the light like something was watching. Bang! The bedroom door at the end of the hall slammed shut. Tom bolted back upstairs. That night, he slept with every light on. Night 2. Tom woke in total darkness. Not just his room, the entire house. The digital clock was dead, the security lights were turned off, the power had been cut. He reached blindly for his glasses, but his fingers found only the cool wood of the nightstand. Heart hammering, he swung his legs over the bed and felt his way towards the wall. The darkness pressed against him, thick and suffocating. His fingertips skimmed the wallpaper, searching for the light switch. Something touched him back. A hand. Cold, dry, motionless. It didn't grip, just hovered, pressing down with an unnatural, suffocating force. Tom froze. His fingers still rested on the switch, but another set of fingers rested on top of his own. He wanted to pull away, but something held him in place. The hand pressed down, curling over his knuckles with an unsettling force. Tom screamed, stumbling backwards. He fumbled for his phone, desperate for light, but the screen was dead. A whisper so close it might have been inside his own skull. Not yet. And just like that, the power surged back on. The room was empty, but Tom knew he hadn't been alone. When he checked the kitchen, he found the fridge door wide open, as though something had already been rifling through it. Inside, his week's worth of groceries had been shredded. Plastic bags lay in tatters, but the meat, ripped apart, clawed open. The raw ground beef was scattered across the floor, like something had dug into it with bare hands. The chicken breasts were gone, save for a few gnawed bones. His expensive ribeye, like something had taken a bite and spit it back out. Something had been in there with him. The locks were still bolted shut. The house was supposed to be empty. That night, he double-checked every light before going back to bed. Instead of sleeping, he laid there still, listening. Waiting. Night 3. At 3:33 a.m., his mother's old record player crackled to life downstairs. A slow, creeping riff, Black Sabbath. Ozzy's voice, distant yet suffocating. Tom froze. He hadn't touched the record player. The song was wrong, distorted, warped. The music played in slow motion, stretching and twisting as if something was trying to claw its way out. The cries, Ozzy's voice, normally theatrical, now sounded real, desperate, like he was actually screaming for help. The floorboards groaned beneath him, as if something was shifting under the house. The music screeched and warped. From the basement door, a whisper, his mother's voice. "Come see, Tommy." And the door was open. The basement smelled damp, old dirt, old blood. The scent pulled him towards the far wall, where a wooden shelf stood slightly ajar. His stomach dropped as realization hit him. This wasn't a shelf, it was a door. Behind it, the stairs spiraled down into the earth. At the bottom, the air grew thick, heavy, hungry. A stone altar sat in the center. Dark stains pooled at its base. Bones, both ancient and fresh, were piled around it, an unholy offering. On the far wall, a mural. A thing loomed there, painted in blood and ash, hollow eyes, too many teeth. At its feet, photographs. Every family that had rented the house, none had lasted longer than 6 months. His family had been feeding it, and now it needed someone new. A book sat on the altar, pages shifting as if breathing, and then the whisper came. Choose. Join or feed. Tom's hands shook as he reached for the book. He understood. The house would never be empty again. Weeks later, Tom stood in the front yard, smiling as a young couple admired the house. Their 5 children ran through the overgrown grass, laughing. The father glanced at the seemingly endless mound of moving boxes piled on the lawn. "So, we'll have access to the cellar?" Tom smirked, his eyes glinting, leaning against the fence. "I'm charging you rent for the whole thing," he said, his tone mock serious. "Only right you have access to the whole place, right?" The father chuckled. "Fair enough." One of the kids, a little girl, perked up. "Can we play down there?" Tom's grin widened. "Of course, it's part of the house." The mother looked at him curiously. "And you're sure you don't want to live here yourself?" Tom shook his head. "Nah, I bought a place just down the street. Figured it was time for a fresh start." He turned to watch the children, their laughter echoing strangely in the late afternoon air. "Well," the mother said, turning back towards the house. "I'm so excited to move in." Tom nodded, his gaze lingering on the cellar door. "I'm sure you'll be very happy here." As the family stepped inside, a familiar sensation rippled through the earth beneath Tom's feet. The house breathed. The thing below stirred, waiting, hungry. Tom didn't need to look back. It had already claimed them. That was a really wicked story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. Huge and special thanks to the Redditor, u/inevitable loss 3464 for granting me permission to narrate your awesome story, and always continue to write amazingly. Now, before I do end off this video, I do want to thank you guys for all the recent support you've guys been showing me. I feel like every single milestone, it's like no time in between them, and I just want to thank you guys a lot. And yeah, I love doing this, and it's good to see you guys supporting this and loving the videos. And yeah, so once more, I hope you guys enjoyed today's story, and don't forget to sit back, relax, and indulge in fear.